Good day, magandang araw ulit mga guys and gals and to our non-binary pals out there. Today, what we're going to talk about is economics. And the reason why I'd like to talk about economics today is because for the past few weeks and maybe even months, uh, medyo top of mind sa aking pag-iisip ang economics. And because nga lagi na pag-uusapan ngayon, inflation, recession, di ba? Plus the fact that this morning I saw one of my friends post on his social media that he was surprised that people were posting a lot of travels on their social media. So one would think na wala tayong economic crisis na pinagdadaanan. And ako mismo just last weekend, I ate out with my family and with a friend's family to a hyped up restaurant. The food was okay, but it wasn't worth the wait, I guess. As usual. And ang haba ng pila, and punong-puno talaga yung restaurant. So, tapos maybe 2 weeks ago, I went to a toy convention, and ang sikip nung mga pasilyo. Talagang ang daming tao. And I got to talk to some of the vendors and they said sales were good. Generally. Some of them probably didn't sell as well. But I think it might be a product issue rather than a market issue. But generally, they all said sales were good. And parang bumalik na sa pre-pandemic levels yung sales nila during that convention. And some of them even said it's revenge spending daw. Dahil I think nag-skip ng 2 taon ng ganung mga conventions. So, meron nga ba talaga tayong economic crisis? But generally speaking, yes, there are indications of talagang makikita naman natin, inflation is really happening. Prices of basic commodities are going up. And there's no denying that. Of course, some people do. Well, but they're not denying inflation. You can contest the numbers, as I said in a previous video, that these numbers can be contested depending on kung ano nga gusto mong tignan as basis for inflation, di ba? And impending global recession, which could be triggered by a recession in the United States. Although projections sa Pilipinas is our GDP would be growing, which indicates that we won't be going into a recession, but the world might go into recession. But that's not an indication of na ang galing-galing ng Pilipinas. It's only because all these other economies have been performing better prior to this what's happening recently, and malaki ang ibabagsak nila pag nagkatotoo yung sinasabi ng global recession compared to us. And our economy has been really been beaten down by the pandemic. Yung lockdowns natin mas mahaba at mas matagal and mas restrictive kaysa dun sa mga ibang bansa. Hence our economy has suffered more the past 2 years. So yung recovery natin is parang pambawi lang. So it's not sabi ko nga, if you compare yung GDP growth natin na mukhang maganda percentage wise against inflation data, and yung binagsak natin at the peak of the pandemic, our economy hasn't fully recovered yet. Medyo malayo-layo pa yung hahabulin. And you can just look at it from casual observation. Makikita mo even sa malls, marami pang saradong spaces. And marami talagang vacant spaces na hindi pa nagre-recover, hindi bumalik yung mga old tenants ng mga malls. So there's definitely less economic activity still happening. But how do you explain this phenomena na parang mga tao nagta-travel at willing to spend, to eat out? So, yun nga sinabi. Ano ba yun? Revenge spending lang ba? So, matagal ko nang sinasabi na ang economics is not is actually psychology on a macro level. So in a sense, economics is not a hard science. It's not like physics, where you can perform experiments on people and then replicate results. Diba? I don't think there's been any two instance in the whole history of man na meron tayong specific circumstance na eksakto and na-replicate natin yung results. It just doesn't work that way. It would be unethical for people to experiment on people wholesale and experiment on their welfare and well-being to test out economic theories. So at best, it might even be a stretch to call economics a soft science. I don't even know where to put economics on the hierarchy of sciences. Diba? It's definitely not physics or chemistry na pwede kang mag-perform ng experiment and get the exact same result over and over. So it's not that. It's definitely not that. And it's probably even, I'd put it even on a lower hierarchy than the soft sciences like psychology or sociology. Kasi nga, it's you can't perform experiments on people to test out economic theories. And economic activity is not a natural phenomena. It's economic activity is a construct that only happens because people interact with each other, and we can make up theories to describe what we see as people interact individually and as on a macro level. And I guess that is the study of economics. It's a serious study, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that economics is kind of like yung astrology na parang, uy, anong sign mo? Taurus? Pag Taurus ka, malakas kang gumastos. Hindi ganun po yun. Economics is definitely a serious study because it tackles serious matters and it affects human lives on the wholesale, because government policies are based on economic theories. Diba? Political ideology is based on economic theory. So this is a very serious matter. Unfortunately, it's something that people's interpretations and opinions vary on, and on what they believe will happen or happened. Kasi nga, even your interpretation of past events can be very different sa pagdating sa economics. So I guess that's where the key problem lies when people are talking about economics. Of course, there's some very basic principles like law of supply and demand, which unfortunately some political ideologies seem to ignore and not understand. And unfortunately, things like that will cause great economic difficulty to people if some basic economic principles are ignored. And that's happened over and over again. So yun lang naman. That's my random, I guess not so random, dahil nga it's spurred by current events and trends. So those are my thoughts on economics, and I just realized now that yung problema natin sa economics is kind of like our current problem dito sa Pilipinas about the discussion about history. Because even if history does have a rigorous science-like approach when it comes to research and verifying information, but in its application and interpretation, it's more like an art. So it's really subject to a lot of gray area, di ba? I'm not belittling the historians. I have a very strong respect for our economists and our historians. Pero yun nga, even our economists can't agree on certain things. On what is the best economic policy or ano ba yung dapat nating tahakin dahil wala naman talaga tayong perfect science behind it eh. 'Di ba? But there are very basic things na maiintindihan mo pa rin na dahil nakikita natin ng paulit-ulit nangyayari. And the same thing with history. There are facts that we should na nakita natin in the past that we just can't deny, 'di ba? Like for example, na talagang yung ekonomiya natin ay bumagsak noong 70s. 'Di ba? So there are very very strong facts and evidence to be seen na talagang nangyari. However, the interpretation and the presentation of these things is like art and literature. So paminsan yung nadadala nung delivery yung interpretation ng tao sa history at sa economics. So, I guess yun lang naman yung gusto nating pag-usapan. We don't really have any firm conclusion or whatever, but I just wanted to share my musings on these issues. So, thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe para namang and then comment if you have your own ideas or you have topics that you want to discuss, me to discuss. And again, once again, maraming salamat.